I've only heard this peculiar family story twice. The first time it was mentioned, the explanation was frustratingly vague, which only piqued my curiosity. I couldn't help but ask about it again a few months later, when we gathered at our family cottage during the summer. My relatives, who usually live in Ukraine, had taken a trip to Turkey back in the 90s. They rented a quaint little cottage, tucked away in the countryside, far enough to be considered remote. As they hesitated to discuss the story, I could sense their unease, but they eventually decided to provide more details. My grandma began the tale, her voice wavering slightly. Your great-uncle Boris, he was the one who first noticed something strange that evening. The dogs outside had been barking viciously and behaving erratically, and he went to see what was going on. She paused, gathering her thoughts. Boris stepped outside, and his eyes widened as he saw what he could only describe as a UFO in the sky. It was pretty high up, but it seemed to be lowering as it approached our cottage. As my grandma spoke, my great-aunt Olga chimed in. We heard Boris call out for all of us to come and see. We were skeptical at first, but curiosity got the better of us. We stepped outside and saw it too, a triangular object with a light in each corner. My great-uncle Ivan, who had always been more of an observer than a talker, leaned forward and added, I got a really good look at the ship. It was a sleek, metallic structure that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The surface of the ship was smooth and reflective, almost as if it were made of liquid metal. He paused for a moment, his eyes narrowing as he recalled the memory. There was also a peculiar symbol on the side of the ship. It was an unusual design that I had never seen before, an elongated triangular face with large, expressive eyes, a slightly upturned nose, and a thin, confident smile. My grandma continued. As the ship got closer to the house, we began to panic. We ran back inside, our hearts pounding. The walls were shaking so violently that dishes were breaking, and the dogs outside barked louder than ever. My great-uncle Ivan, usually a man of few words, added, It hovered over the cottage for several minutes, as if observing us. We huddled together, fearing the unknown. And then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it ascended back into the sky and disappeared. The room fell silent as we all absorbed the incredible story. My relatives, who were generally conservative and rational, had no interest in supernatural discussions. Yet, their conviction and the vividness of their account left no doubt in my mind that they were telling the truth. I couldn't help but press for more information. Did you ever find out what it was? Did anyone else in the area see it? My grandma shook her head. No, we never found any answers. We asked around, but nobody else seemed to have witnessed it. We've always kept the story within the family, afraid that others might think we were making it up or delusional. As we sat there, the sun setting outside, the story continued to resonate with everyone in the room. It was a testament to the unexplainable, a reminder that there are mysteries in this world that defy reason and logic. My family's experience with the unknown brought us closer together, connecting us through a shared encounter with the extraordinary. We spent hours discussing the peculiar symbol that my great-uncle Ivan had seen on the ship. It seemed significant, but no one could pinpoint its origin or meaning. Some suggested it could be a logo or a symbol representing the beings who piloted the craft, while others thought it might hold a hidden message, waiting to be deciphered. Over time, the story has become an indelible part of our family's history, a fascinating account of an encounter with the unknown that none of us will ever forget. And now, as I continue to gather with my family at our summer cottage, I can't help but glance up at the sky, wondering what secrets the universe still has to reveal. The memory of the symbol, as described by great-uncle Ivan, continued to pique our curiosity. Each year, as we gathered at the cottage, we found ourselves revisiting the story, trying to make sense of the inexplicable events and the enigmatic symbol. We searched the internet for similar accounts or any information that could shed light on the mysterious emblem, but to no avail. In the years that followed, we began to explore the possibility of reaching out to experts in ufology, hoping that they might have insights into our family's encounter. We shared our story with various researchers and investigators, seeking answers to our many questions. While we received a plethora of theories and hypotheses, none seemed to truly capture the essence of our experience or provide a definitive explanation. In 1982, my father was stationed at a military base in New Brunswick. Life on the base was somewhat routine, but there were occasional whispers of strange, unexplained events happening in the surrounding area. Little did my father know that he would soon find himself in the midst of one such event. One evening, my father's best friend Arlo and his girlfriend Alara decided to catch a movie, Tron, at the local theater. They left the base just after dark, anticipating a pleasant evening together. However, just an hour later, Arlo and Alara returned to the base looking shaken and disheveled. As their car pulled in, my father immediately noticed the severe damage to the vehicle. It was covered in dents, scratches, and several different colors of paint. He approached them, asking what had happened and why they hadn't gone to the movie. They brushed him off, simply stating they'd changed their minds, and hastily retreated to their quarters. For a few days, my father couldn't get Arlo to open up about the incident. It wasn't until they were alone, drinking beers in the privacy of their barracks, that Arlo finally broke down and shared the chilling tale. That fateful night, Arlo and Alara were driving along a desolate stretch of highway when they spotted mysterious lights coming from over a hill up ahead. This was an unusual sight, considering there was nothing but wilderness for miles around. As they approached the base of the hill, they noticed a parking lot for a local park. Several cars were already there, their occupants seemingly drawn to the enigmatic lights. Curiosity piqued, Arlo and Alara pulled into the parking lot and joined the others as they prepared to hike to the top of the hill to investigate. The atmosphere was tense, with hushed whispers and nervous glances exchanged amongst the group. Suddenly, as they began their ascent, multiple disc-shaped objects with flashing lights emerged from the hill's peak, accompanied by a loud, otherworldly sound. Panic erupted as people scrambled back to their cars in a desperate attempt to flee the area. In the chaos, several vehicles collided, resulting in the damage and paint transfer that my father had noticed. Arlo and Alara didn't hesitate, driving back to the base at breakneck speed, their nerves rattled by the unexplainable encounter. The story didn't end there. A few days after Arlo's revelation, a group of men dressed in black suits appeared at the base. Their presence was unnerving. They moved with an air of authority and purpose. They sought out Arlo for a private conversation, leaving my father to wonder what the connection was between these men and the strange event Arlo had described. After the meeting, Arlo seemed even more on edge. My father pressed him for details, but Arlo would only share that the men had warned him to remain silent about the incident if he wanted to preserve his military career. The implication was clear. Whatever they had witnessed that night was not meant for public knowledge. This story has remained with my father for decades, serving as a reminder that there are still mysteries in this world that defy explanation. On a chilly night in the UK, my family and I were returning from a delightful dinner party hosted by our close friends. We had all indulged in delectable food, heartfelt conversations, and warm laughter. As the clock struck 10 p.m., we decided it was time to head back to the comfort of our home, anticipating a mere 15-minute drive ahead of us. The car was filled with my wife and me in the front, and my 3 sons nestled together in the back seat. Our route took us past a USAF base situated in the picturesque southeast of England. The road was long and straight, surrounded by an eerie darkness that seemed to swallow the landscape whole. It was during this stretch of our journey that something extraordinary occurred. A sudden and brilliant flash of light illuminated the night sky, drawing our attention to the heavens above. This spectacle managed to rouse one of my older sons from his slumber, his curious eyes now fixated on the source of the interruption. In an instant, an enormous silent object appeared, flying gracefully above our car. My wife and I, as well as the awakened son, could clearly see the mysterious entity hovering so close that it seemed almost within reach. We arrived home, still perplexed by our encounter, and discussed it briefly. After some contemplation, we attributed the brilliant flash to a flare from the nearby USAF base, and speculated that the massive object could have been a rare Eurasian eagle owl, which had been spotted in the area before. Satisfied with this rational explanation, we pushed the incident to the back of our minds, and eventually forgot about it. More than a decade later, during a casual family dinner, the topic of our strange experience resurfaced. My son, who had been awakened by the flash that night, and I reminisced about the event when suddenly, my youngest son, who had been fast asleep during the incident, chimed in with his own recollection of the night. He had kept his memories hidden, believing them to be nothing more than a vivid dream. But our conversation compelled him to share his unique perspective. According to him, our car had come to a complete stop when the flash occurred. We sat motionless, as if suspended in time, while the low-flying object lingered above us for a few heart-stopping seconds before disappearing into the night. Once it had vanished, the car seemingly resumed its course as if nothing had happened, leaving my son bewildered. The most intriguing revelation, however, was yet to come. My wife distinctly remembered promising her sister that she would call upon our safe arrival home. We had embarked on our 15-minute drive around 10 p.m., but it wasn't until 11:45 p.m. that my wife called her sister to confirm our return. Both my wife and her sister corroborated this unsettling detail, leaving us all dumbfounded. To this day, we cannot fully explain the events that transpired on that fateful night. I had been entirely sober, and my youngest son remains adamant that something inexplicable happened during our drive. The unaccounted 90 minutes that it took us to complete a simple 15-minute journey still baffles us. While we may never know exactly what occurred, we can all agree on one thing. That night, something extraordinary happened, and it is a memory that will forever be etched into our minds. When you subscribe, be sure to click the notification bell. Click here for more true scary stories.